Hi, Crockett.
Hello, Sam Malone. So, it's felt like has been a long time since an Eagles game, and it feels like we still have to wait a long time
Oh,
for an Eagles game.
yeah,
But
yeah.
nonetheless, the last one they got was a good one. It's a Cat Country 96 Birds recap. It is brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer sponsor of the Philadelphia Eagles, and by Banko Beverage. Visit them at bankobeverage.com. My buddy Sam Malone is here with me. I'm Kevin Crockett. Just feeling well, it's interesting. I was trying to think back as we were getting notes ready for today, and I've been so focused on trying to get ready for Rams. I was
Mhm.
like, who did they like? At first, it
Who
was
was
like,
it
okay,
last? Yeah,
recapping the Cowboys game, and then I was like,
yeah.
wait a second, that wasn't the last game. So, your impressions after that Commanders win, because I think there's definitely some things that are worth discussing there,
Sure.
and then we'll turn our attention to the Rams. So, just your first thought after a Thursday night football win.
Yeah, very tough win, very tough opponent. I love the way the Eagles defense really contained their offense. I mean, in general. I mean, their Daniels. Look, he's a great quarterback, and I know they have to play him again. But I think the fact that the game was home, it was prime time, helped them a lot. And I said just the fact that they're home, I think they're going to get the win over Washington. But I'll tell you, they came to play. It was a little, the first quarter, first half, I think, was a little difficult. They just could not get anything rolling. And I don't know if the Eagles are a flea flicker type offense because that didn't work. We all saw what happened. That we might want to throw that away and never use that play again. But tough game, tough game for Jake Elliott. A little bit of a concern there in the kicking game, but overall, man, they came out to play. They hung in there. They gave up a last minute touchdown, which I'm not really concerned about at that point in the game. But a really tough game on both sides of the ball. It looks like Washington may, towards the end of the game, the last drive, the last minute and a half, 2 minutes, kind of got a little tired. You can see that in them. There was no urgency.
Which was weird,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like, if
something
you're gonna
didn't.
go if you know that if you score a touchdown and get a 2, you could still
Yeah,
score a touchdown and get a 2. It was just like, what?
yeah,
Like, they could have gotten, they're a team that won on a Hail Mary 2 or 3
right.
weeks ago, whatever it was. There was an opportunity that could have presented itself again
Yeah.
if they were hustling up a little bit more.
Just watching that, it's like it made no sense. Even on the TV broadcast, it was like, and I don't understand where that came from. Eagles are going to win this game with 4 minutes left. Looks like the Eagles won. How are you guys saying that with
They
like,
really were. Like, Kirk
yeah,
and Al Michaels were really banging that drum that, like, this game was
yeah.
over and done with,
Do you not
and
follow the birds? Do you not know what is capable of happening?
but again, I think that was just the tempo that Washington was playing with. Like,
Yeah,
it had felt like a team that had conceded that the game was over.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was weird. We kind of touched on this last time we talked. I think Thursday night football games
Oh,
are just such a push.
yeah, yeah.
Like, you mentioned, and not that they haven't had their struggles in the first quarter, first
Uh-huh.
halves of games, but just trying to just to rev yourself back up
Yeah,
after just playing a game on Sunday. I think Jane Daniels is still dealing with that rib a little bit, and
sure is.
we mentioned coming off of Dallas and resting up for a quarter versus coming off of Pittsburgh
Yeah.
in a down of the wire game, a bang 'em up kind of game. I think really worked to the Eagles' advantage. I think we saw that in the fourth quarter when they were able to just run the football all over Washington. A huge shout out to Saquon Barkley and what he's been able to
Oh
do.
my gosh, yeah.
Um, I think he's entering. I will say this. So as we pivot to the Rams game this week, one, you mentioned Jake Elliott. It's just one of those things that's going around with kickers right now. I mean, you see
Yeah,
Justin Tucker, you see Jake Elliott, guys who are Harrison Butker is hurt. You
yeah.
see a lot of guys who have for the longest time been locks for three, kind of missing their footing a little bit here. I've got a ton of confidence that Jake can get back
Oh, he'll
to
be fine. Yeah,
where he's supposed to be with that. Although it's funny when they got the touchdown too, because you figure they left 7 points with
yep.
missed kicks. When they got up 18-10, and you're like, man, this kick is big.
Yeah.
He just
Close.
snuck that one in.
Hey,
Snuck that one in.
do you think this has, with all of the kickers that you're mentioning, do you think this has anything to do with the fact how the game has changed, where they're not used necessarily as much as they were? Teams are going for it more on fourth down when you're inside an opponent's 45, 40-yard line rather than going for an easy three. Could that have something to do with the mind game of it with the kicker?
Yeah, I don't know, because I don't want to play the rust card, because they
Yeah,
can stand on the sideline and kick footballs in the net
right.
for the better part of
Either
4
part of-
quarters if
Yeah,
they need to. Yeah, I mean, I could see it just like a baseball player with their swing. I could see it like
yeah,
a golfer with their swing. Like, just you try to get yourself, you have the week that you had, you go back to
yeah.
fundamentals, and you try to come out the next week. You're kicking in a dome.
Right.
There's probably a good chance there's going to be some points scored in this game by both of these teams. So hopefully he can kind of straighten that out, because
Yep.
it hasn't
Literally.
been his best season. So
Yep. Yep.
hopefully they can straighten that out. And so we turn our attention to the Rams. They get a
Mhm.
win against New England last week. 4 out of their last 5 in a competitive NFC West. That NFC West is wide open right now for anyone to take it. Just your impressions of the Rams, maybe what
Yeah.
you saw a little bit against New England last week, and just what you kind of anticipate this week coming up.
Yeah, it's funny because you look at the Rams, and a couple weeks ago, you had a couple of their big names that were on the market, possible trade bait, possible this. We talked
Yeah.
about it when we were with Mike Mamula about Cooper
Cool.
Cup. Is this
Yep.
going to happen? And they just simply turned their season around. Contenders now, only a game back out of their division. Was watching a couple different Ram games, and the Rams are still the Rams. I think they still have a pretty good quarterback. Their offense is good. They have 2 really good wide. Are they both playing the wide receiver?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, they'll both be playing. So they still have a good defensive line. And you're out there, and I know a couple years ago the Eagles were out there. I don't know if it was last year or the year before. They came up with a win. It was a tough game. It wasn't a huge, score differential there. But looking at the Rams, the fact they have something to play for now in that NFC West, and I think this is going to be a tough game if they, I do think we pull this out because of the extra rest, mini bye week. I think they could pull this out. If they don't, they have to beat Baltimore. So they have to go 1-1 in the next couple of weeks. I think I'd rather them win this week than against Baltimore if I had to pick. But I think the Rams game is going to be tough. It's going to challenge their wide receivers are going to challenge our defensive backs who are having a great year. Don't get me wrong, but I think that's going to be one of their biggest challenges will be those 2 good wide receivers against our defensive backs. And I want to see how that goes, how long we can stay with them or keep up with them, and how good our defense does against that Rams offense, mainly the wide receiver Rams offense.
Yeah, I think the key in this game to me, and the difference, and I feel confident in the Eagles as well. I
Yeah.
think they win the game. I think this game could be a big "we are here"
Mm-hmm.
primetime game. All the eyes are on you against a team that's in a playoff race.
Yep.
They beat Washington last week, but again, I think you and I would both agree it wasn't the sexiest win we've ever
No.
seen from a football team.
Right.
This strikes me as the kind of game where it's an opportunity. I think Jalen's going to have his chance to take shots.
Mm-hmm.
Rams, to your point, play well against the run.
Yep.
Byron Young at linebacker, but you could argue it's a Jared versus Quinyon Mitchell race for Defensive Player of the Year. He's a really nice player from FSU on that defensive line. I think they're going to say Jalen's got to beat us, and I think he's going to get his opportunities to do that. That secondary in LA isn't one that's particularly scary to me.
Mm-hmm.
Smitty coming off of a couple of games where he's only had 25, 30, 35 yards.
Yeah.
AJ 65 last week or 70 last week.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a game where they have an opportunity to, and whether they do throw for 303 touchdowns or whatever it is, or they don't, I still think they have an opportunity to win this game.
Yep.
But I think this could be a game that everybody's thinking is close. But if Jalen is able to make plays, and I got to say, the one thing I have to give credit to Kellen Moore on above anything else this year is, even when it hasn't been working great, sticking to the run, because then they get to the 4th quarter and they're running people over.
Yep.
I think Jalen's going to have his shot to make plays early with Smitty, with Goddard. I think they've got a chance to pass against this team. I know they've defined themselves as a run team. I love that they've done that.
Mm-hmm.
I think for Eagles fans that are already excited in this team, that level of, the discussion kind of keeps being like, where are the Eagles compared to the Lions right now? And kind of where do they fit? Are they one of those elite Super Bowl contender teams? Are they in that next tier? I think a lot of people see them right on the cusp of that spot. I feel like this is a game they can take that leap. If Jalen can show that he can take guys deep, that he can deliver the football, that he can take opportunities against a weak secondary, that he can throw in a big game. Man, I think stock in the Philadelphia Eagles is going to go up quite a bit if they're able to do that against the Rams on Sunday night.
Oh, this would be a huge win. It would put them at 9-2. And the tricky game, I guess, this weekend as Eagle fans is Washington versus Dallas. Are we
No,
hoping
you're hoping for Dallas. Yeah. I
Dallas.
mean, it's,
Yeah, I
I mean,
mean,
who put up a better fight
you
than
know,
I anticipated against Houston.
well,
Um,
yeah,
but it's Dan Quinn against the Cowboys, and so they're going to want to get after each other a little bit. And yeah,
mhm,
I think that could be. I think Jaden Daniels may be a little bit more banged up than we think. I don't want to
sure,
discredit what the Eagles defense did against Washington, but
right.
I mean, he did not attempt a pass
Nope.
well beyond the line of scrimmage very much at all in that game. So definitely a fascinating thing to
Yep.
watch there. It's a Cat Country 96 Birds recap brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer sponsor of the Philadelphia Eagles, and by Banko Beverage. You can find them at bankobeverage.com. So what I'm interested in what you think about this, because right now, the Saquon Barkley MVP
Mhm.
chatter really hasn't been there a ton. And maybe that's because Jalen has gotten so many of those inside the 2, inside the 1,
Sure.
touchdown runs. Um, Saquon as an MVP, what do you think has to happen for him? Because to me, I don't necessarily look at
Oh,
this Rams game, but the
yeah,
Baltimore game to me is a game where I think they can run the football. And I think if Saquon has himself a day, not to
sure.
look past the Rams,
You
but
can.
against Baltimore, he really enters into that MVP conversation. Why isn't he there
Yeah.
already?
Well, and not to compare, but if he puts up a bigger game and bigger numbers than Derrick Henry against Baltimore, I
Sure.
think that's when you'll start hearing it more. I don't necessarily think it's all about the touchdowns because what was the stat that he missed out on 7 could be touchdowns this year because of
Well,
Jalen
I think
Hurts?
it's a little bit about that, because if
Yeah,
his numbers have 7 more touchdowns to
yeah,
him, even if he's got half of those, if he gets 4
it's
and Jalen has 3, I think that makes his numbers look,
good point.
whoa, even
Yeah.
more, eye popping.
Yeah, he needs to have a better game than Derrick Henry, who's a beast, who's having an incredible year as well. The 2 best backs in the NFL will be facing off, not this coming week, but next week. It's going to be huge. You put him, you get Barkley with a couple touchdowns, 1 in the air, 1 on the ground, whatever, it doesn't matter, and over 100 yards, and you hold Derrick Henry to 60, 70, which is going to be tough. You do that, and he has the better game, and the Eagles come out with a win. I think right then and there, you'll be saying, you know what, Saquon MVP.
I don't want to tell you what I don't know what apps you use or what you're
Yeah.
doing out there, folks, but he is plus 5,000 right now to win the MVP is Saquon Barkley, which
Get
is
out.
shocking.
Wow.
So we will see if he can kind of establish himself in that race
Let's hope.
coming forward. It's fun to have these conversations, though, Sam,
Yeah.
because you look at last year, 10-1, right now 8-2. And even at 10-1 last year, it still
Yeah.
felt like there was this tug of war of if this team is good or not.
Yep.
Now the conversation feels to be, and man, it's been so fun to watch both sides of the ball dictate to other teams how they're going to beat you. We are going to run you over
Yeah.
with the football, and we are going to play great defense. I'll ask you, of the teams that you think are Super Bowl contenders,
Yeah.
where do the Eagles kind of sit for you in the power
Mhm.
rankings? Are they the number 1 team in the league to you? They sit 2, 3, 4. Where do you kind of put the rest of
Well,
the teams in the NFL?
I would definitely put you. I mean, until somebody knocks them off, you have to put Kansas City up there. You have to put Kansas City, Detroit, Baltimore. I think, and Philly, I think, are all in the same conversation right now. I do. I think the 4 of these teams, and I'm probably missing one that I should be.
Buffalo,
Buffalo. That's the one I'm
who
missing.
took
Who
out
just got a
Kansas
huge
City. Yeah,
win. How did
yeah,
I miss Buffalo? So you
yeah.
put these 5 teams as legitimate, with the weakest one. I'm going to say probably the Eagles would be the weakest out of all of that, because the other teams that I mentioned, with the exception of the Ravens, are very consistent. Take the Chiefs' loss away. That to me, that it doesn't matter. But take that away from them, they're still a really consistent team. They were due for a loss. I think the Eagles and the Ravens are the 2 teams in that 5 that I mentioned that are the, you know what? For 3 weeks, we're going to play good ball, and then we're going to mess it up for a couple weeks either offensively. We'll come back to it in 2 weeks. I think out of all those 5 teams, the Eagles and the Ravens are the 2 that are inconsistent, and you can say, you know what? I'm not 100% sure on them yet, but I'll put them in the top 5.
I mentioned Saquon in this MVP race, and I said what I thought the Eagles could do to blow this game open.
Yeah,
The odds for Jalen Hurts are better than Saquon right now to win the MVP, and
I
he
didn't
does
know
have
that.
those 7 more touchdowns that we
Really?
mentioned before. Um, I think Jalen could make a really big statement on Sunday night.
I hope.
Look, I mean, listen, Drake May. I love Drake May coming out of college, and I think he can put the ball in a window that is closing at any given moment. And the Rams showed you, I think, exactly who they are last week. If you gave Drake May time to make a play, he was able to pick them apart. If this good young front seven for LA was able to get home and cause disruption, that's where the turnovers happen. That's where, they had a couple of sacks. I think they had 3 sacks on them last week. I think Jalen has the chance to make 1 or 2 kind of wow plays in this game. And all of a sudden maybe put himself right up there with Josh Allen and Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, firmly in the MVP race. Just a little bit about Jalen, because he's really cleaned his game up and has played some really great football the last few weeks. Just your thoughts on Jalen and kind of what you expect going forward from him.
I love the fact I think I mentioned this before, the fact when the offense comes on the field now, it's exciting. Like, you're waiting for something fun to happen. You're waiting for everything to click, and with the exception of the quarter number 1, of course. But you're waiting for everything. You're waiting for Jalen to do something now, rather than, oh, don't throw it there. He's still a couple things to work on, but he's an exciting player again. The only thing that scares me with him is that roll to the right, how he holds onto the football, which couple weeks ago was stripped from him again, which reminded me of the Super Bowl against the Chiefs where it was stripped. That's the only thing that really concerns me. I like the fact that he's running again. I like the fact that he's not necessarily running out of bounds or sliding all the time anymore. It's just exciting to see him come out on the field. Now, here's how excited I am about it. If we were talking 6, 7, 8 weeks ago when we were struggling and it was like, if they win by 2, I'm not going to be happy, things like this. The fact that he was apparently on the injury list today, Jerry was saying, with a little bit of an ankle. Yeah, that's scaring me a little bit.
If you remember last week, Nick Sirianni in a press conference was like, "Oh, he's dealing with an ankle," and everybody was like, "Dealing with a what?" And he was like, So no secrets there.
But I mean, I look, I know he's playing and he's scheduled to, he's starting and everything, but I just hope that doesn't take away what we've been seeing the past 5 weeks or so, and have him get out of the pocket and move around a little bit and be, what it is? He seems more loose, even on the sidelines. Yeah. And I think that goes a long way.
I know the first quarter has been a struggle. Something about this game, and don't ask me why, but something about this game reads to me a Jalen under center, play action, big play in the first quarter to kind of set the tone in this game. I've been thinking about it all week, and maybe just because there hasn't been football, but as an Eagles fan, it's been already a week since the last game, and you got to wait till primetime on Sunday night. But I think he could go from a guy who people think is really good at playing the quarterback position to fully cementing himself in the MVP race on Sunday night. So we'll see. I think this Rams back end can be picked apart. We will have to wait and see if that is the case. It's a Cat Country 96 Birds recap. It's brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer sponsor of the Philadelphia Eagles, and by Banko Beverage, our friends over there at Banko. You can visit bankobeverage.com. So final prediction for you, Sam Malone, as the Eagles go on the road to LA on Sunday night is
30-17 Birds.
I think I like that. I think I like that number. And I'll tell you for 2 reasons. Because 1, I think it says that they came out and were the much better team possibly from the jump. And 2, that sounds like you're telling me we got 3 Jake Elliott field goals in the bag there, which it would be nice, I think, to get a nice cozy win and to see Jake kind of reestablish himself as the kicker that he was. I wouldn't even be surprised. Again, I don't know why I'm feeling this way. It could be that crazy Philadelphia sports fan optimism.
And that's okay.
That's okay. I might even go a little more. I might say a 34-17 kind of a game.
Sure.
I think Jalen has himself a day on Sunday night. And so hopefully that is the case.
Maybe we'll get to bed. Well, we're not going to go to bed early.
We're not going to go to bed early anyway. They could be up 34-10 with 8 minutes left, and we're staying up. It's the Cat Country 96 Birds recap. It's brought to you by Miller Lite, the official beer sponsor of the Philadelphia Eagles, and by Banko Beverage. For Sam Malone, I'm Kevin Crockett. Go Birds. We'll see how it goes on Sunday night. I'll catch up with you, Sammy. Be well.
All right, Crockett. See you, buddy. Go Birds.
Go Birds.